something bad to us, we are going to do things to you that have never been done before.
What the is that, dude?
Well, g'day, folks. Welcome along to another Friday night free-for-all. And I've been promising you we were going to get to the flat Earth, round Earth, global Earth kind of thing at one stage. Well, tonight is definitely going to be that night. Many people have an opinion on what shape our Earth is. Is it flat or is it round like a ball, a globe? Many people who believe that it is a globe. There are just as many people, or maybe not just as many, but certainly quite a few, that believe there are some very logical questions that can't be answered using a global Earth model, but fit very neatly into a flat Earth model. Now, this isn't just a question for Australians. This is a question that's being asked around the world and has been asked for, well, time immemorial, really. Is the Earth flat? Is the Earth round? How do we prove it? Well, there is one gentleman who's put his mind to trying to fix that problem and has created something called the final experiment. And I'm very happy to have him join us now from just outside of Denver, Colorado. Pastor Will, thank you for joining us on Voice of Freedom. Congratulations on this magnificent project, the final experiment, to prove one way or the other whether the Earth is flat or round. How did you begin to come up with this?
Yeah, so I'm pretty new to the whole shape of the Earth debate. I didn't realize that flat Earth was a real thing until mid to late 2021. And it started pretty simple, just a Facebook post from a friend of mine. She's flat Earth. And when she posted, I figured it was just a joke, but I realized quickly that she was serious and the people commenting on her post were serious. And that began this long journey into the rabbit hole of flat Earth.
It's a very deep rabbit hole. When you first jumped into it, were you shocked, surprised, or was it a logic argument that made you start thinking?
Yeah, I was definitely surprised. I initially thought I couldn't understand why somebody would hold the position, and I thought I could just show her some things and change her mind pretty quickly. But she was prepared. I would use, she had responses. I wasn't familiar with her responses. And that's that moment in your life where you decide, am I going to actually take a look at this and become educated, or am I just going to ignore it because I don't have an answer? And that's not my style. I don't ignore things if I can't answer them. I need to know the truth. I want to learn. And so I dove in head first.
Okay, so you obviously came across, as we all do when we go down this first rabbit hole, some very strong opinions on both sides. Were you a middle of the roader? You didn't really have an opinion one way or the other, or do you lean one way or the other?
No, I had an opinion for sure that we live on a globe. But I gave it a fair shot. I looked at their best arguments. I watched their videos. I watched the debates. I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee, 7 months ago at a live flat Earth debate between two pastors. So I definitely gave it a fair shot. But I came out the other end way more confident in the reality that we live on a globe, understanding the globe model better. But there was still that little bit of doubt in my mind. For example, I've never been to space. I've never landed on the moon, walked on the moon. I've never taken a picture myself of the Earth from space. And so that's how I came up with the final experiment. I said, there's got to be something we can do here on Earth that will just settle this debate once and for all. Something that both sides would agree be definitive And so I just started listening carefully and eventually realized that Antarctica seemed to be this place that flat earthers thought held the key to the shape of the earth, that globers thought held the key to the shape of the earth, and that are wildly and drastically different in the two models. So that's an important piece. Antarctica is essentially an island on the globe model, a big island at the bottom of the sphere. And in the flat earth model, it's we don't even know the true size. We don't even know the true shape, but we know it's so big that it encompasses all of the known continents on Earth, holds in all of the oceans that we have on the Earth. And so I was like, okay, there's got to be something there. Those are so drastically different. They're mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
And eventually I learned that on the globe model, because there's a 24-hour sun at the North Pole in the northern summer, there would also have to be a 24-hour sun in the South Pole in the southern hemisphere during the southern summer. And so that began my quest to say, can we get to Antarctica? Can we get there to see if the sun does a 360-degree circle above our heads for 24 hours? Does it actually set, meaning we don't see it in the sky anymore? And figured out, yeah, we can go to Antarctica and we can do this. And so that's the plan. This December, we're going to be going to Antarctica. I'm actually going to be paying for one flat earther and one globe earther to go and see with their own eyes what the sun does, to document it and hopefully end the debate.
So for many years, people have been able to take cruises out of Argentina and Chile to Antarctica. In Australia, we have an Antarctic base and its main port is located in Hobart off Tasmania. We have an Antarctic Foundation. Australia is heavily involved in Antarctica, and very few Australians have ever set foot on the place. How hard is it to get permission to take 48 people to Antarctica?
Yeah, number one, I expected it to be difficult or impossible. And that was because pretty much everything I learned about Antarctica, I learned from the flat earth side, which states that you can't go there. If you try, there's military presence that will turn you away. There was this video of these guys in a fishing boat that I was told were going to Antarctica. And then all of a sudden you see this huge, military ship telling them they must turn around. I did some research on that video and found the original, and it listed the coordinates. And they were between mainland Australia and Tasmania. So They were nowhere near Antarctica. And it should have given it away. They were in t-shirts. Okay. There's no time of year you can go to Antarctica in a t-shirt. So anyway, I expected it to be very difficult, but it was incredibly easy. So I started with a simple Google search, Antarctica travel, something like that. And all these websites came up. It was so many companies, I had to keep a spreadsheet. And I quickly noticed there was I could take all of these companies, which is well over a dozen, and I could separate them into two categories. There were companies that take you to Antarctica by boat, by ship. And then there are companies that take you to Antarctica by airplane with a flight. And that was the first clarity I had in this jumbled mess of all the various companies that take you to Antarctica. And they leave from different places. They leave from Australia. They leave from New Zealand. They leave from South America. They leave from Cape Town, South Africa. So all these different places. And so I really had to get an education on the geography of Antarctica, where these various boats and planes go. And I ended up deciding that the best thing I could do for the final experiment is get us as far south as possible. And the furthest south you can go on the globe model would be, of course, the South Pole, but that's very expensive. And the next best thing I could find was a flight to right at 80 degrees south. Which is a company called Antarctic Logistics and Expeditions. They go by ALE for short. They take multiple flights to right at 79 degrees, 46 minutes south at a camp they have called Union Glacier. And I called them up, told them what I wanted to do. I wanted to document what the sun does. And they said, great, come along. So that's the company we're using. And the flight will take America into Arenas, Chile. It's about a 4.5-hour flight south. And we're going pretty deep into Antarctica.
Okay, so you get there, you get your long johns out, you put your warm ones on, you get your tent or whatever it is that you're going to be sleeping in. I imagine there'll be some training leading up to this for survivalist training, cold weather training, that kind of thing. The experiment itself, I think you must have given a great deal of thought to. Have you been able to view this site? Do you have an uninterrupted view? And I mean uninterrupted, no mountains, no nothing to the horizon from where you stand.
So there are mountains. This camp is actually right kind of inside the Ellsworth Mountains. So a lot of people on the globe side have been doing modeling and trying to look at the different latitudes and where they think the sun will be. And so far, everyone that's contacted me that's put forth a globe model has stated the sun will not, at the time we're there, will not go behind any of those mountains. So that's not a concern I have at the moment. Okay.
Because I thought when I first heard about the experiment that if there is, because I thought you put it very well on your website, no prior experiment to this has been conducted with both parties present and agreeing on the basics of the experiment. So this is the first time that the flat earthers and the globalists to prove the argument. And then I guess you pull the deck chairs out on the ice, focus the cameras to the skies, and sit back and watch.
Yeah, I lost you for a minute there. But yeah, it's the purpose of the experiment was to make something that was really uncontroversial, right? People have been throwing all these ideas to me that just, in my opinion, wouldn't work. Like, Will, let's go out on a lake and let's see if there's any curvature. And it's like, okay, how are you going to do that? Like, let's go to the ocean and see if ships disappear bottom up. And it's like, how are you going to get everybody to agree on that? There's waves in the ocean, there's tides. It just doesn't seem conclusive. These types of debates have been going on, as far as I can tell, for years, and they don't seem to be moving the needle. But the one thing that I can't find anybody has done is actually gone to Antarctica for this purpose. And most importantly, the collaborative nature of the final experiment is, guys, let's come together. We're at each other's throats. We make fun of each other. A lot of times it seems like they hate each other. It's like, okay, we're both in pursuit of truth. That's what's behind the passion on both sides, is they both believe they have the truth. So let's find common ground, which is we both want the truth. Let's come together and let's go see what the truth is. Whether or not there's a 24-hour sun is a fact. It's a fact of reality. It's a fact of the geography and our, how this earth works and what the sun does. Let's just go figure it out together, and then let's go from there. Fortunately, both models have already stated, the globe model has stated, yes, there has to be a 24-hour sun in the south in Antarctica. The flat earth model has stated, no, there isn't one, because if there was, our model wouldn't work. The sun is making this gigantic circuit in December, and the sun has to go around the entire outer edge of the flat earth over the Tropic of Capricorn, cover a lot of ground. And so there can't be a 24-hour sun. For example, when we are there, there's going to be a point in time where the sun is in Australia, right? And we're going to be south of the southern tip of South America. And so if you look at their map right here behind me, and you find the southern tip of South America, and then you look at where Australia is, I know has a bizarre shape that we're not used to. That's the furthest two distances people can be on the flat Earth model. And so if the sun is visible in Australia and it's also visible above our heads in Antarctica, the only way that makes sense is on the globe, because on the globe, when you go south of the equator, things get closer together, things get smaller. And so Australia and New Zealand are actually close to Antarctica on the globe model, but they're as far away as possible on the flat Earth model, meaning from the southern tip of South America. The Antarctic Peninsula would be more geographically accurate. The Antarctic Peninsula and Australia are as far away as can be on their model. So this seems to be, to me, to be very definitive, cut and dry, black and white, and that's why I came up with it.
So far, you have 2 flat earthers who've signed up, but you made offers, as you said, you were prepared to pay to take one of each side down, and this isn't a cheap exercise, I imagine, not by any stretch of the imagination. So the 2 largest, I think, or certainly the largest flat earther that I can think of, you approached, and he thought about it and knocked you back. Has that been the case with many of the other famous flat earthers?
So we did polling, so it wasn't up to me. I chose the top 4 flat earthers that we had heard about the most, either in our comments on our videos or emails to me. And Flat Earth Dave won that poll, David Weiss. And so that meant that people wanted to see him go to Antarctica to represent the flat Earth side. That could have been a ton of votes from flat earthers. It could have even been a ton of votes from globe earthers who are like, I want that guy to go. And he has said that he's willing to go to Antarctica. He has said that the 24-hour sun, he was referring to something else, but he's even said he would fly to Antarctica in a plane with globe earthers, including Neil deGrasse Tyson, who he hates. And so I thought for sure he'd be willing to get on a plane to go to Antarctica with the final experiment, but he said no. So yeah, that was disappointing. People are putting forth their reasons as to why they think he said no. I can only tell you what he told me, which is that my friends are demons and liars was his excuse. So.
Okay. All right. So you have been able to get 2 more, though, who have signed up at this stage. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 signed up for the Globalist. I'm very proud to say that Australia will be represented on the Globalist team heading down there with somebody who's calling themselves Where's Wally. And I happen to know who that person is. So we'll find out whether or not he wants to come on and have a chat and talk about it. But you will certainly get a great deal of knowledge from that particular gentleman. I can tell you he has a wealth of experience and wealth of life experience. And he is very definitely a globaler. So I'm looking forward to hearing what his thoughts are on the whole thing. Can you tell me what sort of preparations will these people have to go through before you're allowed to host them in Antarctica?
Yeah, so to get to Antarctica, you have to be cleared medically. It sounds a little bit more difficult than it really is. No hospitals in Antarctica. And so if there's a medical emergency and you can't be treated there, they're going to have to fly you out of Antarctica. So it's kind of a big, and flying, especially a 757, which is what ALE has, is not a cheap endeavor. So they're just making sure that your health can handle it going down there, making sure you don't have medication that could cause issues either there or in the cold. It's really not that difficult to be medically approved. I filled out paperwork, let them know my age, my height, my weight, whether or not I was on any medications, and I was medically approved to go. So that's really all it is filling that out, showing them your passport, and then paying your deposit to hold your spot.
What would you say to, and I'm gonna label this side the flat earthers from this perspective. What would you say to those flat earthers who say, look, you've gone to an area that, people are allowed to go to, so you're being shielded from everything. You're not going to be allowed to see anything. You're only going to be allowed to go at a certain time, very strict dates, yada, 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 yada. What would you say to those folks?
Yeah. So if we were on an adventure to find the firmament, that would be a very good point. But again, the final experiment was designed to be something that both sides are like, yes, this will be definitive. Whether or not we go to some area that we're allowed, or the fact that we can't freely and privately explore Antarctica, is irrelevant. We are going to a place in Antarctica, and the sun will either do a 360-degree loop over our head, or it will set, meaning it won't be visible in the sky for some portion of the day. It doesn't really matter where we go from that standpoint. The sun will tell all.
And you raise a very good point. If you're standing in the sunlight off the southern tip of South America, and it's bright sunlight downtown Melbourne, Australia, you think the argument's probably been won for the globalists, the global believers.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to be taking a lot of video, a lot of pictures. We're going to be looking at the sunspots. We're hopefully going to have people elsewhere in the world taking pictures of the sun at the same time. It's going to be an incredible experiment. I'm excited.
There has got to be some trepidation in the whole thing. You're traveling to parts unknown, the medical issues, should something unexpected happen, somebody requires evacuation. All of that must play a toll on you as you're putting all this together. But I'm also keen to learn, between the two factions, when you get down there, the camaraderie that you're hoping to engender, like you say, the two sides tend to look at each other, and they're always having a go at each other, as we call it here in Australia. I'm not sure you're going to get that for whatever reason. This particular point, this particular argument, flat or round Earth, seems to engender a lot of passion in people. Sorry, dropped out a little bit, which turns into a bitter discussion, a bitter argument, where people then start making assumptions about others' intelligence level because they don't believe the same way. How have you approached that side of this argument?
Well, again, the spirit of the final experiment is like, hey guys, let's set aside all this bitterness and let's do something together. Let's do something we agree on. We both sides agree, if there's a 24-hour sun, that's the globe model, and if there's not, that's the flat Earth model. There's also something to be said about the internet. The internet brings out the worst in people. So when you're not physically with someone, it's so much easier to treat them poorly. When you're a keyboard warrior, you just don't even have any filters. And so I think when all of us get together, however many end up going to Antarctica, I think it's going to be a fantastic thing. And I don't think there's going to be any animosity or arguments that get out of hand or anything like that. I think it'll just be a great time. I think it'll be one for the ages, for sure. You
think the plane flight home, the losers are going to be happy about it and there won't be any ribbing?
I doubt it. I mean, if we're all searching for truth, we're all going to walk out of there with more information about the world we live on. And I think that's a huge win for everyone.
Yeah, and certainly be part of history, very impressive history. My King James V Bible starts with the book of Genesis, and in it refers to the firmament. How does that settle with you?
Yeah, so
as a pastor.
Yeah, I've put a lot of thought into this. There is a lot of different ideas here. Some people talk about, it's this Hebrew word rakia. Some people talk about this word meaning expanse. And so it's not necessarily talking about some hard dome. The flat earthers obviously think it's a dome that covers the world and that probably comes down either in Antarctica or further out. There's another take, which is that the firmament in the early part of Genesis is referring to the crust of the earth, which separated the waters from above the crust and the waters that were below the crust. That's my current position. And that's not just like some made up thing. That's a very well thought out position. In Genesis, it talks about the firmament 4 times. Then it switches to a firmament of the heavens. And it's kind of a weird qualifier. And so I think it's possible that Moses was trying to distinguish it from, we have this first firmament, the crust. Now we have this firmament of the heavens, which could be, the atmosphere and the different layers of the atmosphere that we have. So that's my current position. But one thing I'm not willing to do is I'm not willing to reject reality for how I'm interpreting something in the Bible. If I look at the sky and it's blue and the Bible says the sky is green, I'm not going to say, I'm not going to reject what I see outside. I'm going to say, okay, let me go look at what it says in the Bible a little bit closer. Let me research the underlying Greek or Hebrew word. Let me find out if maybe it was a figure of speech or an idiom or something like that. I'm not willing to just have this blind faith and state, well, here's what the Bible says and here's what I think it means. And so what we see in the known world around us, I'm going to just reject that. I can't bring myself to do that.
How is your community taking this? Your church, are they finding this a little bit weird for their local pastor to be coming out and wanting to go to Antarctica and prove what shape the earth is?
So I mentioned the final experiment to my congregation for the first time last Sunday. So I've kept this from them as well, because I kept this secret for a while until I revealed my identity. So I haven't had time to tell them. A few of them in the church know from either hearing about it from my family or seeing me on YouTube. I'll tell them eventually, but they know who I am. They know I like to do big things. I like to have big ideas, and I like to pursue these big projects.
And you don't think there might be some interesting conversations in Bible study in the lead up to your trip?
Oh, I'm sure there will be.
I think it'll be amazing conversations. I would love to keep track of this journey, Will. As we say, 9 people signed up at the moment. You are prepared to take 24 from each side. Limit that you need to get.
Let me clarify one thing. The experiment is going to be bigger than just going to Antarctica. So the scoreboard we have on our website is for people who participate. And so we've invited the 24 people to all participate in some form or fashion. And it would be a little bit too much to ask them to have to pay to go to Antarctica in order to participate and be on the scoreboard. So they can participate by interviewing me, which is the easiest form of participation. All it is it's spreading the word, because the more people that figure out about this, the better it will be, because people have great ideas and they can communicate things that I wouldn't think of. But the other way they can participate is by giving an idea to us that will make our specific experiment a more robust experiment. So that's how Where's Wally got on the scoreboard, for example. And so we've made it to where all 24 people invited from each side have the ability to participate. They can participate without spending a dime. They can participate without even leaving their own house. So far, we've got only one globe earther who's confirmed to actually go to Antarctica. And we're talking to 2 flat earthers right now, Jaron Campanella and Austin Whitsitt, who have both publicly said they will go, but I'm just trying to confirm that with them before we state publicly that they are going.
Okay, so the group might only be, 5 to 8 of you maybe, rather than 48 of you.
That's right. Okay. Yeah, that's right. A lot of people have not participated yet. There's still time, but the scoreboard is also kind of keeping track of what I would call a social scientific experiment, which is which side seems to be more confident in their view, etc.
Oh, that's going to make for a very interesting result after you've figured it out. Will, thank you very much for talking with us today on The Voice of Freedom. If people would like to get more information and potentially come to Antarctica with you, how can they do it?
Yeah, anybody's free to come as long as you pay your own way. Check us out on YouTube. If you search for The Final Experiment, we come right up. Subscribe to us because we do a lot of updates almost daily during the week. Our website is thefinalexperiment.com with hyphens, the-final-experiment.com. On there, we've got a live countdown for how long it is until the plane lands in Antarctica. We've got our scoreboard so you can see who's participating. We have an interviews tab of every interview that I do. This one will go on there, and an FAQ section as well for all the questions we keep getting asked. We put some answers on there on our website. So there you go.
I'll just bring it up there so folks can have a bit of a look at it. This is the Final Experiment website, the-final-experiment.com. And you can click into participants up the top there, and you'll see Where's Wally down the bottom here. He's very excited. I'm sure he's very excited to be going in with this. And, of course, across the top, you frequently ask questions and other interview content and whatnot. Will, all the best. And if we can help you here at all with the Voice of Freedom and people in Australia to help get behind this, regardless of the side of the fence they happen to be on, please just reach out. Would love to be help you with this as much as we possibly can.
I really appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Good on you, mate. Look forward to catching up with you maybe in January when you get back and find out. How long will you be in Antarctica for?
5 days.
Okay, well, plenty long enough to get cold, frostbite in places you don't want it, and figure out whether or not the Earth is flat or round. Good on you, Will. Thank you very much. What an interesting chat it was. Website, I noticed that there was a Where's Wally. It had me thinking, and it wasn't until I actually spoke with Will and we set up that interview that I discovered that Wally might come from Australia. Through one set of circumstances and another, I wound up ringing a fellow who has been very active in my inbox as a globalist. And he's been a great friend of mine for the last few years. He is an inspiration to many of us. He's a man who has a phenomenal life experience knowledge and has worked in some amazingly diverse careers and has a level of knowledge on many things that you might find unexpected in most people. I'm lucky enough to call him a friend. I guess tonight we're going to meet him by his real name, because while he's sitting in the green room watching at the moment, I can see that his name is going to appear as soon as I put it up. So I guess, without giving away his last name, I'll introduce you to the Where's Wally of Australia, who will be heading to Antarctica in December. Good evening, Len. Lovely to have you with us, mate. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, good evening, Carl. And how are you?
Mate, very fit and well, and extremely envious of you. This is a bucket list item you were telling me yesterday when I discovered that you're the Where's Wally. So I imagine you've always wanted to go to Antarctica.
Absolutely. I had to do an air navigation exercise many, many years ago around the geographic South Pole. It wasn't in an aeroplane, it was a simulation. And it was part also of an examination I had to do for my airline transport pilot license. And one thing when you're traveling around either of the poles is you can't use a magnetic compass, because a magnetic compass suffers from what they call magnetic dip. And as you get toward the North Pole or the South Pole, the compass wants to point to the Earth, where the magnetic lines go back into the Earth or come out of it up at the North Pole. And you have to use a system that they call grid navigation. And before the days of inertial nav systems and very low frequency radio navigation systems, or even GPS today, if you were around either of the poles, you had to use grid navigation. That meant the only thing you could use for reference would be a directional gyro. Now, directional gyro proves to us any day of the week, wherever you are on the planet, that the Earth is rotating at 15 degrees an hour, because a gyroscope has what they call a property of rigidity in space. So no matter where you are, if you set a gyro facing north and you watch it, it will precess 15 degrees every hour, and within an hour, it won't be pointing due north where you had it pointing on the Earth. It will be pointing 15 degrees to the left or to the west of north, because it's holding on to a point in space. That's the rigidity in space. Unless you do something to it, it will keep pointing at that point in space where you, as the world rotates through 24 hours, it will precess 360 degrees and bring you back to where it was when you started.
Right. Okay.
But no doubt, and there's no doubt in my mind, with the navigation techniques we have to use, that the Earth is a globe. Not a doubt in my mind.
You're very active in debating the topic, let's put it that way. And there are a number of flat earthers who've attacked you on various occasions, and you give as good as you get, I've got to say. As Pastor Will was saying, to be accepted to go down to Antarctica and whatnot, you had to put forward some form of experiment or something that you could offer to the experiment. I know you probably offered them 100 things. What do you think got you over the line?
Well, I sent over to Will copies of the tables about sunrise and sunset in Antarctica. Anyone can get them off the Antarctica program website, Australia Antarctica program. And those tables show you that I think it's on the 14th of October, the sun rises and it stays in the sky for 24 hours every day for 143 days. And then it has a sunset on the 2nd of March each year. There's only one sunrise and one sunset every year in Antarctica. And it'll be the same at the North Pole. And when the sun comes up, it doesn't, Pastor Will may have a little bit of confusion there, but it doesn't rotate above your head. It rotates around Antarctica just above the horizon. It may reach a zenith. Well, it does reach a zenith where you can see the full face of the sun. And that's like that.
I was trying to get to that point and I distracted myself with something while I was talking to Will, but this leads me to the experiment, and particularly, does the sun dip below the horizon? The definition of horizon.
Wait, you're dropping out there.
Sorry, mate. Yep, sorry about that.
Yep. The definition of?
The definition of the horizon is going to be need to be settled, I guess, once you get there and can actually see what your horizon, actual visual horizon, will be. Yes. He tells me that this place you'll be going to is nestled in the middle of a mountain range. This isn't going to be terribly helpful.
We dropped out again, have we? Yes.
No, we're back again. I don't believe this is going to be a helpful thing unless you have a very long range view to the horizon, not blocked by mountains. I think what's going to become important in this experiment is the definition of what is below the horizon. And if any part of the disk disappears below the horizon, for regardless how long, the flat earthers will claim they're right, you're wrong. So has anybody done deep? I imagine you've tried to get as much information as you can so far, but do you know if anybody has done deep investigations into the distances your experiment will be conducted over?
Oh,
Where
yes.
will the horizon be?
The ladies over at ALE in Salt Lake City in Utah who arranged this flight have told me that the base camp we're going to is in such a position that the mountains will not interfere with those who want to film the sun for 24 hours a day. So the sun won't disappear behind any mountains. It will be above all the land for 24 hours.
Right. Okay. So it was my understanding too that the sun will come very close to, below, but not actually dipping below it. That is the best, I think. Not that it's just going to sort of sit in a very small circle above your head for the day. I hadn't thought of the experiment of if it's sunlight where you are, and it's sunlight time in Australia then too, that kind of disproves the theory. But I think that's another very, very interesting theory put forward. One
of the problems is with the flat Earth people, if you've seen the map they have, which is not exactly a flat Earth map, there's no such thing as far as I'm concerned. The only place you can go from the geographic South Pole is north. Now, it's an island continent. It's not a big ice wall that extends around the outside of the oceans or anything like that. And you can prove that yourself by going on the internet and looking for photographs of Antarctica, and you'll see quite a number of photographs there with a shadow cast down the wall of ice they claim is the one that goes around the Earth, and you can see clearly that the sun is on the far side. Now that happens all day. The sun rotates around, and if you're on the opposite side of the Antarctic island continent, there will be shadows cast on the ice that you see. So, a lot of their argument just falls apart. I honestly don't know.
They might argue too, and I apologise for the internet connections, folks. I've switched over to my other one, or at least I think I have, and it might hold it a little bit better. We'll just see whether or not that connection works up. A lot of the flat earthers will tell you that there are millions of fake photos and everything else floating around. Very hard to disprove any of that when you don't have the technology or the skills to go into it. The conversations, I imagine, on the flight over will be quite animated. The pastor is hoping that they're going to remain civil. Do you think that'll be the case?
Well, it'll be the case as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it will be civil as far as I'm concerned, because I don't engage except with a few people about the shape of the Earth, because as far as I'm concerned, they are talking nonsense. And I don't want to listen to their theories because I know that they're nonsense. So that won't be from me. I'll sit back and have a cup of tea and talk to them, but we won't be talking about that. I'll let them see the sun for 24 hours. Yeah.
Yesterday we were talking about this, and you were sort of saying pretty much the same thing, that you hope it'll all be civil and cup of tea and a good chat.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that will be the case. What about the flight back? And let me just turn this on you. What if the sun doesn't or does dip below the horizon and the flat earthers win the experiment? Well, have you thought of the alternative, or is it just not a consideration at all?
Not a consideration for me, because the sun will be in the sky. If you have a look at those tables, I'll send you a copy of them actually.
Yeah, sure.
Have a look at the tables, and it tells you all through those months from October to March, every day it's up all day, up all day. There's no mention of it sinking below the horizon. But on the 3rd of March, it starts sinking below the horizon.
Right. Well, you'll be there well before that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's be honest. If you tucked yourself up against the side of a 2,000-foot mountain, the sun going round where it was may disappear behind that mountain. Well, that's not proving that it's not in the sky, because there will be sunshine all around you.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I think the definition of horizons and what's below and above a horizon needs to be settled before you get there. Otherwise, we might find it's ice picks at 10 paces, and that wouldn't be too flash, mate.
Well, there's another thing to take into account. There's another thing to take into account, and people from the Flat Earth side, and I must tell you that the Flat Earth Society had on their webpage at one stage that they had members all over the globe, which I thought was a bit odd, but they've since removed that. But when we talk about the horizon, people keep saying to me, look, I can go out and stand on the beach or a headland and I can look left and right, 180 degrees of Pacific Ocean out there, and it's dead level. And my response to that is, yes, of course it's dead level. If you got on a boat and went out of the middle of the ocean where there was no land in sight, whatever, stand up and have a look around. The ocean, the horizon will be equidistant from you in all directions, and it will be level. I mean, that's not a difficult thing to understand if you think about it. To go up in a balloon and look down on the Earth, no matter where you are on a sphere, if you look from where you are in all directions, the horizon will be level. Now, the only way you can find out whether there is a curvature is you have to go high enough to be able to look down on the Earth, like that fellow did that jump from 120,000 feet. If you look down and you can see a curvature dropping away towards the horizon all around you, that's telling you that there is a curvature and you're on a sphere. Not difficult to follow. What's needed is a bit of creative deduction and critical thinking. Then when you get to understand it, you will see that a lot of this flat earth nonsense is just absolute nonsense. I mean, Eric Dubay put out a video in which he said there was 200 proofs that the earth is flat. Well, Professor Dave, who is a scientist, he took that up. He put out one to show that the 200 proofs are all debunked. And he debunked them one by one after other in about an hour, I think, on a video. And it's just absolute nonsense. So I don't think there's going to be any considerations when we come back about it being a flat earth. None at all. And the other thing is, of course, I don't know whether I told you, but I have put out to Dave Weiss, Eric Dubay, and to, who's the other guy? Eric Dubay. And Mark Sargent, who considers himself the guru of all flat earthers. I have offered them a wager of 1 million Australian dollars, or the equivalent in 99.99% gold bullion, which you can buy from Ainsley Bullion, you know. And
yes, you can.
And I've sent it to them, and I said, well, look, there's a wager. If you collect all your flat earth people who support you, and if 2,000 of them gave you $500 each, you'd have $1 million, the equivalent of Australian dollars, and you would have your stake to cover that. And I've given them till the 1st of November to come back and say, yes, they accept it. But I don't think they will, because you have to have enough confidence in your belief to back it to the hilt. And a lot of them say that, I'd back it to my hilt. Yeah. Well, I'm now giving the online betting people the opportunity for those people to back it to the hilt. And I'm asking them to put it out. So if you're on, Ladbrokes or Palmer Bet or something like that, and you want to bet the earth is flat, go for your life. But don't be surprised when you lose your money.
Interesting proposition.
Yes,
I'd be interested because if they actually put up a book on that, it'll be very interesting to see the prices, because these big betting companies do nothing without doing a lot of research into the topics.
Absolutely, yes.
And they have the time, the money, and the resources to do in-depth research.
Exactly.
It would be a hell of an interesting price when they bring the book up. I'd like to see that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm waiting to see that as well, because there's no doubt about they will do the research to know whether or not they're giving odds the right way or the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, I'm not a gambling man, but the simple insurance companies, because they have all those algorithms, makes them up. the betting companies do exactly the same. They don't raise a book up on anything unless they know more than you about both sides of whatever you're betting on. So,
it's got to be a sure thing. Well, bookmakers, casinos, and banks are all the same. If people don't come in and give them money, they go out the back way.
yeah,
They're not going to let
agree.
it go. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting. And I will be able to let you. I'll be able to let you know from the base camp whether or not the sun has stayed in the air for 24 hours above the horizon, because I am assured they have Starlink internet connections at the base camp, so we can let you know immediately.
Well, I think I may have suggested to Pastor Will, either in an email or while we were off camera, that if he needed, a camera crew to come down there, a camera crew of one with multiple cameras, I would be very happy to come down and provide everything required to live stream Antarctica, including my own Starlink, if required. So
there you go.
Be very happy to be involved in that. I think it would be just an amazing live stream. And it would also, I think, give me the opportunity to do the first radio program from Antarctica, which will really piss Darren Hinch off.
It would be good. It would.
Yeah,
but
that would be great.
I got a brand new Nikon P1000 the other day, which has absolutely magic telescopic lens on it. And I thought I'd got the last one in Australia, because all the shops I went to were telling me, we haven't got any in stock. We've ordered them, but Nikon say they're probably going to go out of that range and change it to something else. I got one, and one of the camera shops rang me this morning and say, "Oh, we've just got one in. We were lucky to get one." Sorry, I've got one. Yeah.
Oh, bugger. There you go. Well,
Yes,
I've heard they're very, very decent cameras as well. So, and somebody I think brought one up in the chat there earlier saying, use a P1000 and you'll find definitive proof the Earth is flat. So,
yeah, right.
I guess it depends on what you're pointing at and how far away that thing might be. But I'm hell of a conversation, mate. Hell of a conversation. And look, I don't want to put too fine a point on it. Do you have any health concerns before heading off?
No, I don't personally, but you have to fill in your medical form, and if they want to know who your doctor is. And I've been in contact with my doctor, and he said, "Oh yeah, they can ring me up if they like, so no worries."
Excellent.
Yep.
Well, I'm very excited for you, mate. Very, very excited for you. And
in fact, there's one thing I'll tell you. Just the expression when someone's face lights up.
Yes.
Well, I went up to see my cardiologist last week, and I did all the tests and so on and so forth. And we sat down in his office and we started talking. I said, "Oh, by the way, what's my heart doing at the moment?" And he looked over on the computer, clicked a button, and his face actually lit up. His eyes opened right up wide. And he said, "You know what?" He said, "Your heart is better than it was when I first saw you." So obviously what we're doing is right. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep,
Well, I know
absolutely.
you're doing all the right thing by your own body. So
Yes.
I can't wait to sit down and have a talk with you, mate. We'll have to catch up for a coffee shortly.
We better do that.
And we're sort of in the same neighbourhood these days. So that might be sooner rather than later. I'm going to let you go here, mate, because I've got a couple of other folks I'm going to bring in for another chat. But I did want to touch base.
By the way, I don't know who Where's Wally is. It's not me.
Oh, it's not you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
There you go. I thought it was you.
No, I had a look at that and I thought, oh, goodness me, who is that? But I'll see if I can find out.
All right.
Yeah. I'll have another look. I'll have another look on the Final Experiment site and see. Maybe they have my name up as Where's Wally or something like that. I don't know.
Don't know how it came all back to you, but it did. So there you go.
I'll find out.
All right. Yep, you're meant to be, mate. So I'm looking forward to keeping in touch with you. Where the hell are you going to go and buy all your Antarctic gear? Or are you don't.
You hire it down in Punta Arenas, down in the southern end of Chile.
Right.
Yeah, you hire it there. But I did go the other day, and I got myself some of those very, very fine merino underwear, long underwear things. And I
Long
wore
john type arrangements. Yeah.
Yeah, I put them on, and I thought I'll wear them home. When I got home, I was sweating like a pig, and it was cold outside. So they're damn good, I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, I think you're going to enjoy them, and a good pair of Sorels for your feet, mate. That might be what's required as well.
I've got to find out those things, yeah. But anyway,
right,
I shall. And by the way, just a little thing for the viewers. Little thing for the viewers to remember is I've been trying for 55 years now to get people to understand that we, the people, are the creditors of all our parliaments and councils. We are the creditors. And if you go into Black's Law Dictionary, you find out what a scheme is. It's a scheme is something to defraud creditors with. So when you think about what the government's doing with our money, we are being defrauded when they do things we don't want.
With plenty of schemes.
That's a good thing for people to think about, mate. Yeah.
Mate, we'll have you back. We'll have you back on another night for a chat about some of your constitutional challenges and queries you've sent to the High Court. Because
don't worry.
I think that'll be another very interesting conversation. And there'll be many, and I know there are many people who watch the chat who are deeply involved in common law and how our High Court is working. You've caught them out, so we'll chat about that on another night. Thanks for joining me tonight, late notice and all that. But we will follow your journey, and fingers crossed, mate. Maybe I'll get the gig to go and do the live stream. You never know.
You never know. Okay.
Yeah. Will's church will have to pay for that. All right, mate. You have a good one. Great weekend to you, and be safe.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, mate. That's Len, dear man, and a wealth of knowledge, and obviously a man strong in his convictions. He has his mindset, and there are plenty of folks who are of a flat earth mind who are just as full of their own convictions for a variety of different reasons. And I can see some of them are in the chat with a couple of different things that I've seen put up there. So we'll follow this very, very closely. I think it's an immensely interesting experiment, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the upshot of it all. There are a couple of other faces who are floating around here tonight. Hello, Vincent. Look at that.
Hey, how you going?
Wave. We love the
moving wave. Yep.
Yeah. And can't have you on a Friday night without bringing in the Galax, who tonight are actually sitting in what is almost normal lighting. Boys,
Almost.
You're not looking like an Oxford Street dog shop. Yeah, I mean, it looks great. Yeah, we can see you. It's fabulous. Hands up, who wants to go to Antarctica?
Oh, I'd love to go to Antarctica.
I've been to Antarctica.
Oh, shut up. Vince, you're the no.
I'm the no, yeah. Only because health-wise I wouldn't be allowed to go. That's the only reason.
Oh, okay, health-wise. All right. And Bruce, you and I, obviously, we want to go because it's just an exciting place to be. We probably wouldn't want to go where they'd let us go. We'd like to go somewhere else. That is the problem. And Bear, all right. Begin the brag. How did you get to Antarctica?
I went over. I was really lucky. I went on with a small group, so we went on a Russian icebreaker, which meant that we could get off on the ice. So I ended up camping on the ice. We went kayaking, ice climbing, dug a hole in Deception Bay with hot water. Went swimming, did the polar plunge.
Oh, yeah.
Very fun. Very fun. Went to a couple of different research stations for Vladilosky or something or other. But yeah. The hardest bit was like we went on this Russian icebreaker, but it left from Ushuaia, which is the bottom of Argentina. And then it's 2.5 days across the Drake Passage. And yeah.
That's a bit of rough water, that, isn't it?
Oh yeah, roughest water in the world. And yeah, mate, it was like 50-foot waves over the top of you. It's pretty harsh. 2.5 days. Yeah. And then we get there and they go, you could have flown to the Shetland Islands and we'll pick you up. Right. Thanks.
Wonderful.
What time?
Yeah,
What time
get me to the nearest plane.
That was Valentine's Day, so February 14th we were there.
Summer, late summer.
Yeah, you got to go in summer. You can't go in winter. It's all
What year? How many years ago?
Oh gosh, I'd have to check now, but it was around. I think it's probably close to 10 years ago now. 2014.
Yeah, right.
I want to say 2014. I'm going to go.
Is it that late?
Somewhere around there. 2000.
Before 2012.
So
Anyway.
we
were really lucky. We took there was this an ex, that's a bit harsh, but a former Miss Australia. She wanted to be a host for a getaway, so she came with us and they filmed the whole thing. So it's on Getaway. It's still on the internet.
Okay. Yeah, right.
Me doing the polar plunge that made it onto national television.
Something that Len didn't mention is that he's also talking to 60 Minutes about doing a story on it as well. So you might find that they're tagging along to be the first time I've watched 60 Minutes in about 20 years. So if they do that, I think I'd probably have to watch it. All right.
Questions, doesn't it? Carl, I shared a photo with you on the screen. So I've just shared that up. I don't know if you can put that up on or not. There we go.
Yep.
So this is a photo taken from a fighter plane at 50,000 feet of the Concorde. What can you see in the background, guys?
Sun?
But the Concorde's certainly not curved, so therefore it's not being used as a fisheye, at least so they tell us. So maybe evidence, may not be evidence, but just thought I'd show it. Okay, thanks, Carl.
Why was the fighter so close to the Concorde? That seems
about to measure something.
The FAA know
using my patches.
What?
I was just about to measure something using my patches before you took it down.
Sorry. Would you want it back up again?
No, it's all right. I don't think, as I was about to measure it, I was thinking this probably isn't very scientific. Don't embarrass yourself. So you probably saved me. Well done.
Well, I sent you the picture, Carl, so you've got it there. It raises a question, though. If they find out that there is a curvature in the Earth because they proved that the sun's always up, then have they confirmed that the Earth is a certain size, or could it be bigger? That's one question. Part two, if they prove that it's flat, why have we been told it's round?
For what reason?
Yeah, for what reason?
That's really the interesting point for me. For what reason? And we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to, I guess, what is the other big news this week, and that would be.
Quickly there, Carl. Sorry, just quickly on that one. I know years ago hearing like the flat Earth theory, and one of them was that like the planes only flew a certain way, and there wasn't a flight coming back from Argentina back to Australia through Western Australia that way. Incorrect. I flew that. So when you fly to Argentina, or when you do the thing, you go against the spin of the Earth because it's the fastest way. So to get to Argentina, I flew Sydney, Christchurch, Santiago, which is Chile, and then Chile, Argentina. And to get back, you fly Argentina, Perth, Sydney. And when you're flying back, the captain goes, if you look out the right-hand window, you will see Antarctica. And you look out the right-hand window, and there's Antarctica. So
all the way.
Yeah. So I had to. Yeah, I already know that it's kind of disproven.
Yeah.
Well,
I have my background.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
Was the sun up 24 hours a day while you were there?
I would have checked if I'd known that was a thing, but it was definitely light most of the time, and it was just like always that sort of thing. But unfortunately, I didn't like stay up all night and look at it because I didn't know that would have disproved the whole thing. So we did camp out on the ice. We did a funny story actually. We built this igloo out of like everybody's packs, and we made this big igloo. But luckily, most of us were in tents with sleeping bags and stuff. And these two poor guys, the main organizer, lovely guy, but very disorganized. And he goes, "Oh, mate, you guys are going to have to sleep in here. Here's a couple of sleeping bags and stuff." and it just dripped on them all night. Apparently, it was just
Oh
horrendous.
no!
Anyway, in the morning, we were getting everybody up, and I'm shaking this tent. Go, come on, guys, get up! It's time to get up. Look in there; it's completely empty with 2 nice sleeping bags. And they poor bastards slept their night in a wet igloo.
Wow!
Poor buggers.
Yeah, poor bastard. But they've got a good story to tell.
Yeah.
My word! My
Yeah.
word! Absolutely. All
Yes.
right, on to the other big story of the week, I guess, and or the most recent story of our week was last night's show with Guru and Co. Stop the Rot, Sack the Lot. Form,
Yeah, you
and
dropped out for half a sec.
I beg yours.
You dropped out for half a sec. It's the first time in a while, so have another go at that question.
Oh, I was just saying that last night's conversation on Guru's show was very confronting for many people for various different levels. In fact, I found the chat most interesting to watch and read, given there were a huge number of trolls who decided to vent their glee, for the want of a better term. I don't know. We've all seen, the better part or all of the show. Let me start with you, Vince. You were heavily aligned with A1, working closely with A1 in the early days.
Yep.
What did last night's show mean for you?
Basically, without going into too much detail and saying too much, what the show did was show what has happened over the events, and actions speak louder than words, let's say that, and the actions that have been seen throughout that. I mean, over here in South Australia, basically Ricardo managed to destroy the whole South Australian movement in one foul swoop.
Yep.
And
in doing so, the lady that was putting all the funding into South Australia, I'm not sure if she was one of the coordinators or just somebody who was getting behind it, but she was essentially a pensioner who put all her savings and everything she was getting every other week into pushing the A1 message.
She idolized Ricardo. She is a beautiful woman, a lovely, lovely lady, right? And she was accused of doing things wrong, which she didn't do wrong, in all fairness, right? And it was a real shame because, you have to ask what general shoots their own soldiers in the back.
Yeah.
Okay. That's my thing. Now, I held a neutral position in all of that and stayed with A1 after that for a while. But it eventually got to the point where I just said, no, and then I resigned. So I don't wish to say anything bad, but what comes out, I was doing their IT work and they just chopped me out. They figured I wasn't doing a good enough job or whatever. So fair enough. And, politics played inside the party.
Were you cut out before or after you and I sort of started working together?
Effectively cut out, but I was still a member. Right, I am one of the few original members when memberships were actually running. So I was one of those, and effectively I decided to resign from that. But we had already, I basically resigned because I was helping out my place, right, doing stuff with my place. And when Ricardo said that everybody in my place is a, what did he call us, Mason, right?
Yep.
I thought, well, damn, I'm going to have to go find somewhere to become a Mason now because I don't even know if we got one around here. But yeah, but at that point I thought, right, that's enough insults. I'm out.
Yeah, righto. So the way that things were put last night, the various different tales all seemed to hold a fairly consistent theme, I thought.
Correct. Yep. I would say that. What do you reckon, guys? Larrikins, you know Rick as well as I do. Probably better.
Unfortunately, I think that's what happens whenever you put anyone on a pedestal. that there's no way they'll ever live up to that expectation. Obviously, it was very disappointing seeing some of the things. And as you said, a consistent pattern from basically everyone close to him. So that was very disappointing. But yeah, beyond that, what can you say?
Yeah. Well, it's a shame. I mean, some of the policies and stuff that they had in Australia One are brilliant policies, would do wonders for the country, right? And they're well thought out and well done. I'll give kudos for that. They are excellent, right? It's just a shame that we can't use them.
Yeah. And it's a shame that another thing
there's going to be a lot of disappointed people who were looking to Ricardo or A1 at least to put up a bit of a fight. But I don't see that A1 really can continue in a political way. Not that I support political parties, we know that. But boys, do you think A1's a shot duck now and he may as well just move to America and reap the crop we've sown over there?
It seems like it.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty well damaged here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, is the thing that he has preached mainly is morality, and he's, you know, by what these people that were so close to him have said, he lacks a lot of moral fibre, which is
very disappointing,
very sad. Yeah, very sad about that, because we admired him. We thought he was a great bloke, and we did spend a lot of time with him and around him, and yeah, he seemed like a great bloke with great moral fibre. So we never saw that side of him.
No.
But yeah, disappointing. I mean,
disappointing. I think
to be fair, I didn't see that side of him directly either in my interactions with him, but I've just seen the results of his interactions, like when he destroyed South Australia's Australia One group. That was just shocking, right? He could have dealt with it if communications had been done properly. It could have been dealt with very easily.
Well, it seems to be an issue, doesn't it? The communication.
Yep.
Yep. That's for me probably the biggest issue. There is zero communication outside of when he decides he's going to issue an edict, send out a notice or a memorandum or what he calls it, a bulletin or an update, and now of course he gets his darkroom out once a week and ordains to speak to the Australian audience. Then, although runs a very heavy filter across the questions, and doesn't seem to answer anything that makes him feel a little bit uncomfortable, which is not necessarily the way I thought crisis management in this case should work for him. He would do better to stump up, but he spent his time, this week bashing Australians, bashing Dave, Guru and others to his American audiences, trashing their names. So I think that was a really good analogy. A general, you're not going to trust a general who's going to shoot his own people in the back just because it seems to be expedient. And while there was a lot of crap going off in the chat last night about the division that this was causing, or the pile-on that it looked to be, I didn't feel it was anything like that. I didn't think it was a pile-on at all. I don't think that anybody in the show last night was telling stories outside of school. I think what they were trying to do in their own way was give all of us a little bit more perspective and context to events that have happened in the more recent past. Not going back, 4 years or to the money at Epic, that was raised a lot. But from my recollections, Dave and my conversations about that money from Epic, Dave has all the details. They reckon they know exactly who's got it and where it's going to be gone now. But I do recall, I can't remember exactly the story. I think there were 8 people involved, Anyway, the money disappeared out of Epic that night, and came to Queensland. Is my understanding of how that defence story for Dave at least plays out, and he says he can prove it. I don't think I've ever seen the files, but I don't think I ever asked for them either. So they are around, and that may well be something that comes up later. That's nothing I'm involved in, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, there was a question mark raised there a lot. Now,
well, they needed a question mark. They needed a question mark raised there because for those who were at Epic, right, that was the biggest coming together of community ever, and it was a family. Everybody that was in there was a family, right? Everybody was helping everybody else. Everybody was looking after everybody else. It was just huge. But where else can you go and stick an iPhone on a pole to charge for 2 hours in the middle of everybody, come back 2 hours later and pick up your iPhone and walk off with it fully charged? That says something for the morals of Australian people. Right? And that's what we felt there. It was just magnificent.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, excellent.
And
but I'm not surprised at all that money went missing, because when we were walking around there, and I was making jokes about it. I said, man, every junkie in Canberra's down here now with a bucket going collecting money, because there were just buckets everywhere and everyone was walking around. And it's like, mate, come on. As if any of this is going to make it anywhere. Like, this is just... Anyway, it was a joke.
Well,
They
needed to do that. They needed to sow division. Because every junkie, but then there was like 1.5 million normal people there as well, right? Who were relying on
or 10,000, depending on the ABC.
Oh, well, or the commissioner of the federal police who can't count.
Yeah. But an awful lot of cars came to Canberra with no one in it, apparently.
Oh, yeah. 1.4 million of them.
It's almost the numbers of empty electric cars sitting on the wharves in Australia. And an American EV maker has gone bust, Fisker, owing somewhere like $1 billion, and they've got thousands of cars they can't sell. Have we seen the end of EV times, boys?
No, we just need nuclear power so we can power them all.
Which is a whole nother discussion,
And looking at the current map, far north Queenslanders would still be left out. So
I'd love to have
anybody going across the great over to WA is not going to be much better off either.
Yeah. Well, from what I hear, WA will be able to power themselves on their own iron ore, because China won't be buying that much of it anymore. They've opened up an ore mine in the Congo, and our iron ore prices, folks, watch them start to drop. China's going to be taking less and less of our resources until they can take them all and not pay for it. And they're going to really make an impact on the Australian economy with this mine. Because while the ore is not of the same high quality that you get out of Western Australia, the Chinese don't care. They'll just go and build soft steel with it and sell that to the world, because the world will have no choice but to buy it from them, because there is no steel business anywhere else anymore. It's all done in China. So
chance to start building back our own infrastructure, isn't it, Carl?
Well, absolutely. Port Kembla. I mean, it's been reduced now to almost nothing, but it used to be, one of the biggest steel producing facilities, certainly in Australia, if not the world, I think. In South Australia, there was a plant there doing steel too, from memory. We have access to the Mooney oil fields up in Central Australia, where there has been a find. Oh, right, Shell found it, but it is on Australian land, and we need to be we don't need to be pumping. We don't need to be pumping our oil out, putting it on a boat and sending it to Singapore to get it refined and then sent back to us on another boat, because that's sort of what's happening now. We send our unrefined oils out, and we get refined product back. It's not necessarily the same oil we send out. And we're receiving on the east coast of Australia, we're receiving 5 or 6 fuel ships a week from Singapore. Now, Australia has only 3 refineries left, and they are all at very low capacity. They can only produce certain fuels, not all of them. So why aren't we looking at our own exploration, our own extraction, our own refining, and our own fuels? If fossil fuel is there to be used and EV is not going to be taking off, I don't think it's going to be any kind of a viable alternative at all. I think dead in the water is the best place for electric vehicles. I think hydrogen probably a way forward, and fingers crossed we're eventually going to get to a point of energy where we'll be riding around on big scooters and surfboards, or Jetson mobiles. That's the hope, and then bugger them, we'll fly to Antarctica and go anywhere we like.
I mean, it's a fantastic question. Like, why is it that Australian politicians have given away our resources, and also then we don't have any strategic resources here? So fuel production or chip production or anything like that, or steel production. We don't do any of it. It's it's beyond incapable or incompetence. It's obviously malicious or
corruption.
It's corruption. Yeah. We
Well,
all know it.
Your state, Vince, used to be a powerhouse of production in this country.
Yeah.
Ford, Holden, Mitsubishi, Nissan, all of the support industries for car manufacturer were based out of Adelaide. VDO Industries did all the dashboards and the stuff. The glass was made in Adelaide. Everything.
And you even assembled Westinghouse washing machines and fridges and stuff here in Adelaide as well.
Yeah,
I know, because I used to hang the fridge doors.
So all of that manufacturing now has gone to China, essentially. And China now knows it has the power to hold the world to ransom, because in the last 20 years or more, the world has lost the ability to produce its own product. The countries have lost that ability through laziness, through trade deals, through corruption.
An agreement called the Lima Agreement.
Yeah, it was globalization. That was the whole point.
Yeah, that's right. It's centralization, not decentralization.
Yeah. And I think Ronald Reagan had a lot to do with that too. The article that he signed, I want to say it was in 1982, that essentially allowed China to steal IP from anywhere they liked and become competitive in the world. And obviously we've seen they've been able to do that to great extent. So hopefully something changes soon. Speaking of things changing soon, on the 9th of this month, we were talking about how the Saudis were no longer going to accept the petrodollar in exchange for oil. The US dollar was defunct. They would only allow you to buy in, certain denominations. Gold is preferable, but you can buy in yuan, Chinese yuan. You can buy in a couple of other currencies, but they predominantly want you to pay in gold. I'd fully expected that to be an earth-shattering moment for the financial markets in America, and yet we have no great fluctuations. The world hasn't collapsed. My silver hasn't gone through the roof overnight. But the petrodollar has very definitely been taken off the table. Why aren't we celebrating that the world as we've known it is coming to an end and we're moving into a better place of abundance? Bear.
Well, they're still printing dollars, mate. They never had it married to anything anyway, so does it matter?
And how they're propping it up is through the wars. That's the whole point of the Ukraine war and Israel, all that sort of stuff. That when you hear Congress just passed another $600 billion for Ukraine, it doesn't all go to Ukraine. It goes back into the American economy, back into the military-industrial complex. And that's how they're keeping the whole economy afloat and pumping it up. But eventually, mathematically, it has to collapse. But we thought this was going to happen in 2007 or 2008, technically here, but we called it the financial crisis. And we bought gold and silver, and we thought, right, it's going to collapse. And what did they do? They called it quantitative easing, which meant that they printed money, and they just printed and printed and printed. Now, what they did in 2008, the amount of printing, is insignificant to what they're doing now. America's now printing, I think it's close to $1 trillion every month and a half, every 6 weeks or something. That's just going ballistic. So it will collapse. It's mathematical. But they will do everything they can to stop it. And at the moment, it's war. It's what they always do. Or if you read the book, The Fourth Turning, where it goes through how civilizations go. We're at the end of one civilization, it's collapsing and the next one's starting. But on the collapse of one at the start of the other, there is always a war.
Yeah.
Well, the wars that we have going at the moment don't seem to be large enough to be called on any scale a world war, and obviously it's going to be a global shift that's required.
Yes, they are.
Do you reckon they are?
Yes,
We're already in the World War.
We're in a world war. We've been in it for at least 2 years, but you could argue for longer than that. But it's just a proxy war. It's not Ukraine and Russia. Who's funding all the weapons are coming from all the West, and all of the intelligence and all of that stuff is all coming from America or the Anglo-American Empire.
Very true.
And then on the other side, you've got Russia, who is getting weapons from also Iran, North Korea, China and India are backing them financially. They're the ones who are buying all their oil and gas, which are financially propping them up. So, of course, it's a world war.
Yep, no, you're quite right to describe it as such. My apologies.
And in Africa, in Central Africa, that's where the other front is blowing up. It's Russia versus France. France is losing their whole empire, and they're going to lose the African franc. And when that happens, the whole French economy is gone.
I watched a very interesting video with a lady the other day explaining how the French control Africa with the French franc, and they are simply raping those countries of their resources and giving the people nothing. And I think the final line of the video that I saw was essentially get France out of Africa and let the Africans run their own resources and experience their own wealth, manage their own wealth. I think that's a very fine plan, and it's not just the French. There are other nations with interests in Africa too that may not be quite as overt as the French, but they're certainly still there. So very deep, dark, nasty place, Africa.
Absolutely, but all they're doing now, the poor Central Africans from Niger and Burkina Faso and all of these countries. They're kicking out the French colonialists and the people who are stealing all their resources. And who are they replacing it by? Russia. It's the Wagner group that's in there, which is controlling all of the security and all of the transportation and all of the. And where do all these whatever you want to call them revolutionists in Niger and that, where they're getting their arms from? Russia. So Russia's up all of this, and they're basically pushing the French Empire out and replacing it.
So you brought up the Wagner Group. Prigozhin was seen in Africa last week.
Oh, last week. He was there earlier before he was supposedly killed, but yeah. It wouldn't surprise me.
He was supposedly went down in a plane crash some 12 months ago or more, but no, he was allegedly spotted at a Wagner Group meeting in Africa last week. So
doesn't surprise me.
Doesn't surprise me one iota either. I think we talked about it at the time from memory. So watch this space. It's going to get interesting. Phil Godlewski is predicting sooner rather than later an announcement from the Supreme Court of the United States overturning the 2020 election. He is predicting a imminent handover back to Trump and no election for 2024. Vince, I can see you're itching to say something.
It's when watching all of this and what's going on and playing, it's becoming so blatantly obvious that there's so many things wrong here in the American state and the way it's being pushed. You have to wonder, why is it so blatantly obvious? Right? You've got to think, even a moron, excuse that if anybody out there considers themselves one, but even a moron can see something's not right here. So why? Why is that? Why are they making it so blatantly obvious? And why are so many people seem to be oblivious to it? I can't see that there will be a high court ruling that's going to do that. They couldn't do that. That would basically destroy America in a nutshell. I'm not even sure that there will be an election going through. Something will happen. And in all fairness, if they want to take Trump out of the picture now, they've got a couple of options. One is to shoot him. Not quite sure what the other one is yet, but that's about it, right? From the way it appears to the people, not to the Democrats' side of things, but that's the way it appears to the people. So the only reason we need to be concerned about America is because we're so heavily tied to it. But as a country ourselves, we should be building our own infrastructure and looking after ourselves. So,
yeah. Should we be expecting to have Ricardo Bozzi put in as our commander-in-chief, as it appears most Americans believe he will be? I think that probably answers the question.
Yeah. I'm not saying a word.
Something very interesting, which has been going a bit viral on YouTube in Australia over the last few weeks, is a guy raising the question that, did you know that we all know that, like Iceland, Finland, and Qatar, Saudi Arabia, their natural resources pay for all of their stuff. Their citizens don't pay for health or education or anything like that sort of stuff. They even get free housing, all that sort of stuff. Did you know that Australia exports more gas than all of them?
Yeah.
Qatar, Qatar, I think it was Qatar, made $85 billion in tax. $85 billion, which would pay for everything in Australia for all of us to have it for free. We got 500 million.
Yep.
We give Santos, ExxonMobil, all of those big corporations, they get the rights to all of our gas for free. Yep. The only time they have to pay any tax is when they sell it back to us, to Australians, and then they have to pay tax. But all of the stuff they sell,
double the amount for it.
They get tax free.
Yeah, and we get
we need to implement that scheme here
immediately.
If they want to lease it, right? Yeah, you're going to pay this. If you're leasing, you're going to pay enough money out of that lease and what you pump, so that we can pay it back to the people whose country it's coming from.
Yes,
right? And we pay them.
I 100% agree.
And that's been happening in Alaska for decades. I remember hearing, that they get paid every year for the oil that comes out of Alaska. Yeah, so
absolutely.
Why aren't we doing that?
We're doing the same.
Richest nation in the world as far as resources are concerned.
Yeah.
And
once again, we have our politicians not doing what the people want.
No.
And
in fact, they're aiding exactly the opposite. They're aiding the raping of the country's resources.
Yeah. They lack moral fibre.
Yeah. So that's probably the issue that we should all be hammering right now is us getting our wealth, our common wealth, and getting the money from the resources, and all of the other stuff becomes trivial because we would be so rich we'd actually be able to afford housing and education and healthcare and all of these things, where it's just outrageous, absolutely outrageous. We should be the richest country in the world, and we should have the cheapest energy, which would then make all the manufacturing in the world come here because we have
and we've got enough.
Wouldn't you agree that infrastructure such as telephones, electricity, water, right, rail, roads, should all be 100% owned by us, the people, not foreign
Yes.
companies. Would you not agree with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I definitely agree with that, but the difficult bit is in the management of it, because we've worked having lived in Canberra and worked alongside the public service and seeing how unbelievably
Inefficient.
corrupt and inefficient that is. There is no way you can let that be managed by that. You need some form of private public somehow coordination where you can keep that efficiency. Now, in today's world, we're obviously looking at AI and blockchain technology and all these different things which we'll be able to use. But previous to that, that is definitely a problem. Like the management, the government cannot manage anything. They've proven that. But whether it's pink bats or digging a snowy hydro thing, they can't organise shit. And it's just become unbelievably expensive and totally inefficient. So,
Yeah.
yes,
100%.
everything should be owned. Any of that infrastructure should be owned by us, but we definitely need to work on how we would actually manage that or govern it, however you want to call it, where we will need some sort of AI overseeing it to make sure that it worked.
Because we've seen in the last, especially the last couple of days, we've seen that even people who we think have the moral fiber to be able to do this, and even if there was a person who does have the moral fiber to lead and to have the interests of the country and the humanity in general in their best interests, they've still got a family that could be threatened to be killed if they didn't do what they were told. Doesn't matter how good your moral fiber is, you're still going to protect your family or your wife or your kid. You know, like no human being is incorruptible.
Yeah.
You know,
So
AI is the only thing that we can have that will be able to manage us fairly and you know, without corruption.
Yeah. And do it
But
transparently.
then who programs the AI and how does this learning algorithms
source.
go? And when does it get the thing called morals?
Yeah. Are we trusting Microsoft to do this, are we?
No, we need people with high morals to train it.
But it's got to be all open source. All code like that, where it's a governance thing, has to be open source. So it's completely transparent. Everything needs to be tokenized, and then the AI can track all that thing, and everything can be monitored. But the source
so
code
bringing that into play right now, there's Copilot and stuff that's coming in on computers and a new neuro chip that's being there, which is all AI driven. And it effectively stops us from being able to communicate. So if I wanted to send a signal app to you, Rob, and then you and I would be chatting in an encrypted end-to-end type situation, right? So that the government can't see because they haven't broken that encryption. But these neuron chips are looking at what you're doing before you actually, as you're typing it out, they're taking snapshots, they're recording your keystrokes, they're doing. They just bypass the end-to-end encryption. Yeah. And even if I go on Linux and do it, you might be on Windows, so they're going to see the message when it appears. Talk about control. And this is the news.
Also on the same system, so they're going to get caught as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, remember, white hats are in control. Remember what Q told us. White hats.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I believe that not.
Everything that's being talked about by those guys has been recorded. A lot of them have gone. That then, you know, we know that Joe Biden is not Joe Biden. Okay, that's pretty obvious. You know, it's a mask or it's a clone or it's an actor or something, but it's not the same bloke. So
you don't even match, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So which means that the white hats are the ones controlling him. The white hats are the ones making him look like an absolute fool, so that people will wake up. That's this movie.
Okay, but just who are the white hats? Can we expect them to save us? I don't think we should, and I don't think that we should sit on our laurels and expect them to.
No, of course not. I don't think do what we're doing, but don't get stressed out that we're losing, because I don't think we are at all. There's so much evidence out there to point towards us winning, and the fact that we are winning.
Yeah.
That it's.
I think that operation is continuing very deeply in the background.
Of course it is.
We, the people, are seizing the white hat idea and becoming the white hats, which was always the plan. The people have to wake up. The people don't need to be told by a new dictator or a new system what to believe. Oh, your old system was lies. Here's the new system. That's not what they're introducing here. And I don't think, the white hats are coming to save us is engendering the right frame for what will, I think, ultimately be the case.
Yeah, I don't think he ever said that the white hats are coming to save us. He said the white hats are in control, which is very different.
Yeah, well, that's very true.
Yeah, I agree totally. We have to stand up. We have to do what we're doing. And every conversation we have with people about this subject is us being a white hat. You know, every person in the street, the guy at the checkout, you make a funny remark to him, a little, off the cuff little comment. Well, that's you being a white hat. It's you getting the word out there, sort of putting the right vibration out there, if you like. That's what it's all about.
Giving people reason to go,
exactly.
and there are some who just refuse to listen to any argument of any other side, and that's okay too. One's going to be right, one's going to be wrong. We'll see how it goes. I'm not going to hold you up too much longer, but I do bring up something, an opportunity for everyone who want to.
Okay, Carl. So when you come back on, you want to just start.
Always been what you would probably term a skeptic when it comes to things psychic, referring to ghosts and haunted houses and all that sort of stuff. I believe in my life I've had encounters with a number of psychics. I've had a number of readings. In fact, I had a reading from the supposedly royal psychic who was responsible for reading the Queen, Princess Diana, and somebody else I can't remember. So far, nothing he said has ever come true. Nothing, not one iota. And the best mate that came with me to that reading and also wound up being read isn't living in Toowoomba now, where he said he was going to be living. He passed away. So, and passed away in a way a psychic you would have thought would have seen. This bloke didn't see that. So wrote that one off. There were a couple of others that I've never really connected with. But I have had one experience in my life where I went and met a young man at his house at like 9:30 at night, sat in an empty room on two chairs facing each other with a glass of water in my hand, and had a conversation for an hour and a half with my dead grandmother. And I fully believe that, because this young man couldn't have known anything about me. So I was pretty blown away by that, but never seen him again. Can't remember his name, which at times has really given me the shits. And never had too many other experiences from it. So I now have an opportunity to go to a haunted house or a haunted motel, really. So who wants to come? There are a few spots available. It will be hosted by a psychic and one of Australia's better psychics, or most well-known psychics. She's a lovely lady who appeared in the TV show The One that Channel 7 ran a few years ago, trying to find, or it was a psychic test for psychics, essentially, and a lady out of Ipswich won it. But this lady was also in the show. I think she was third, fourth, maybe. At any rate, she'll be hosting the weekend or the night or whatever it turns out to be. It is going to be in southeast Queensland. So if you are in that neck of the woods and you're interested in going to this haunted motel, we'll call it, email me and I'll put you in touch with her. and we'll book you in. But it's happening in late July from memory, and it'll be on a weekend. And yes, I will go along. I'll take some cameras, and I'll leave my skepticism to one side and see what happens. So it'd be pretty wild. I haven't got anything that catches video in infrared or night vision or anything like that. So I don't know what the hell I'm going to film, but it could be an interesting weekend out. So if you're interested, email me, carl@vofhq.com. I'll put you in touch with people. It's an interesting thing, psychics. And I've spoken to her about this, that the whole business of being a medium, being a psychic, is cutthroat from within and fraught with danger from without. I do believe there are some people who have the ability to touch other realms and speak to other realms, get communications from other realms. I believe there are a lot more people trying to do that, and some of them are making a living off trying rather than actually doing. And one of the questions I've posed to another medium, let's call him, has been, why don't the good ones sort out the bad ones? And he said, there's just too many. It's too hard to overcome. So, yeah, too many bad ones.
Oh.
So I don't know. I'm very scared. Well, I'm open to a good one, but I'm a hard taskmaster when it comes to it. You're going to have to jump through a lot of hoops to prove that I'm part of it. And you look, there's probably people going off in the chat now saying it's paganism and devil worship and all that sort of stuff. I don't actually believe that would be the case. I choose to believe that if there is a spiritual realm, and while there may well be demons and such in that spiritual realm, I also believe that there are good souls in that realm. And if you are looking to talk to the good souls, that's who you'll attract. Now, if you are looking, or not even looking for, but if you are of a mind, and that could be a disposition, angry, whatever, you will attract that kind of demon to you. I do believe in that kind of theory. So I'll be going with great positive thoughts, very, very positive thoughts. And I've had a few more people die in my life since my grandmother. This whole thing happened with this psychic, back in the mid-90s, mid-90s. So a hell of a long time ago. And I can tell you I probably haven't had another psychic experience since. So I'll look forward to seeing what's haunted and what's not, and having a night with the psychic. It should be fun.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting how definitions come into play here? Because you've got, the psychic world, etc., and voices from the dead or from spirits, etc., and so on. Yet when a Christian gets chatted to from God or from an angel, that's not classed as psychic. Why not? Because it's exactly the same system, isn't it? You're still talking to another realm. You're still communicating with another realm. So just where do these realms divide? Just as, I'm playing devil's advocate here.
I would say that the division is in frequency. So if you're not careful, like if say you're going to a haunted motel, for example, the frequency of that motel might be very low because something very bad has happened there, whether it was a mass murder or who knows,
Yeah.
So you get a very low frequency. So that low frequency of that region then attracts low frequency beings. That is what's causing this house to be haunted, because like attracts like, basically.
Right.
So yeah, you can go in there with positive thoughts and love and light surrounding you, but you're probably not likely to encounter positive, probably not as likely to encounter a positive being as you would be if maybe you went to a church or somewhere. Okay, maybe a church isn't a good example, but it's a nature, somewhere like right where we are right here, where you've got beautiful nature all around you, fresh air. then you're probably likely to encounter some friendly little fairies and things like that, you know. So it's, I think
J1's suggesting that Bosie will be there on the night.
Well, I was thinking you were going to start making a connection between how we've learnt that the intelligence that was getting to Bosie and channeling white hats and stuff was.
No, we weren't trying to head there at all. We were trying to stay away from that one.
I've just decided that, thank God I have remote control cameras. I will set them up and I will sleep right here in the bus, parked well outside of the hotel. And I don't expect to see too much, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
But in fairness, I mean, I've had experiences where I've got up in a day or something and I've just known for some reason something was wrong on that day and significantly, and somewhere in my family something happened on that day to prove that point. Yet I'm hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of miles away. So why does that occur? You know, you've got to ask yourself that question.
Quantum entanglement.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's, well, now that we know about that stuff, but we didn't know about that 20 years ago.
No. So we called it supernatural.
Yeah. Telepathy and that's right.
Or even, you know, everything, as Bradford was saying, everything's a vibration, but we can only perceive a very small amount of the spectrum of that vibration. So all of this, what we call supernatural stuff, is all happening around us, but we just can't perceive it. But sometimes the veil is fractured, so to speak, and we get a perception of it. Sometimes it's from taking hallucinogenic drugs, but other times it's more...
could be through a meditative state or a dream state, or even daydreaming, you know.
Or drumming, or, you know, certain
dancing.
Dancing and frequencies can bring on different altered states, different perceptions. But like now, because we've entered the quantum age and we're now looking at things from a different perspective, then maybe that's it. Maybe we're now starting to learn what the matrix or the simulation or whatever you want to call it is.
But
I'm
does that
working on
blind
you?
But does the fact that we now have scientific answers for that start to blind you to the ability to accept such things? Or does it actually make you more akin to it? So
for me, it's made me more into it, because I started, you know, originally looking at from the spiritual aspect, you know, but then when it was able to be explained through scientific terms of quantum physics, where to me it made it a better understanding and made it more real. I didn't ever accept the spirituality concept from a church where you're just told you will have faith and you will believe this. I wanted to do more than that. And when I started researching and looking into it and understanding more, I could understand some of the concepts, synchronicity and all of these different things and manifestation. I could see the results and I could see it happening, but I didn't understand it from the spiritual point of view. But when I could understand it, you know, explained in a more physics and from quantum physics point of view, then it made more of an understanding to me. So I accepted it more.
Left brain, right brain, sort of stuff.
Yeah. So, but does that mean that the fact that we're now having scientific explanations, does that destroy faith?
No, I think it can.
Asking hard questions tonight.
I think it complements it really, and can strengthen it too.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but Bosie suggested a really good book, which I can't remember the name of right now, but it was basically proving that God existed by using science. And it you know, it's like what do they say with science? Just allows one miracle, just one.
Yeah, blow it away.
Just the Big Bang. Just give us that one miracle, and we'll explain the rest. You got to have one. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
So intelligent design.
It came back to what you said earlier, Vince. It depends on your definition of what God is. I mean, that everyone has their own interpretation. That's what's such a ridiculous thing to try and talk about, because everyone has their own interpretation of what even the word God means. So before we can even talk about God, I have to understand what your perception of that is, and I have to try and explain what my perception of that is, and then we can have a conversation about that. So
It's like asking for his pronouns.
exactly, that's a
Yeah.
Good on you,
But
boys.
going back to, like, if you're just going from the concept of that God, there is something greater, there is something more than just this.
Yeah.
Well, then, even like to me, the quantum physics side of it, it opens up more questions. Okay, well, what is this? Is this a simulation? Is this the Matrix? Is this, are we a fraction of God and experiencing itself? All of those different things then get to be bigger questions, I think. But what actually God is, well, who knows? Like, there's obviously something greater. There's something more. What that is, who knows? That's what's more interesting to me.
So we never know where these chats are going to go on a Friday night. They're going all over the place. Unbelievable.
I know.
Well, we've solved
and
the problem. All we have to do is charge for our gas, and we're financially rich.
Yep.
So we've solved now the flat Earth thing, and we've now just solved God. So
Well, I think we've got Len. Len's going to sort out the flat Earth for us, and Pastor Will may well give us a good insight into God. We can reach out to him again.
Oh gosh, I won't make a joke about Pastor Will, but that's
all right, boys. You boys doing anything spectacular over the weekend, or are you still painting?
Painting, and we might do a bit of tree trimming.
Tree trimming. Oh, last week we were just showing off our new axe. We actually got to try the new splitting axe, and whoever said in the comments that Fiskars are fantastic.
Fiskars are fantastic.
Fantastic.
It's like a magic axe.
It is.
It's incredible. Just
wood splits.
Yeah.
It's like actually being on YouTube and splitting wood, or like a Hollywood movie where the thing splits rather than smacking the hell out of it and nothing happening.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There is a bloke makes a lot of money on YouTube just splitting wood.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it? Yeah.
I thought that was only, but I'll go with you.
He doesn't wear shirts often, and has a chest that's about 4 acres across, a pair of shoulders that are another 2 feet wider than that. And when the bloke swings an axe, the trees behind him shake. It's pretty wild. He has a large female following.
I can imagine.
Right. I thought you might have been on Grindr again.
Yeah, I was going to say it sounded more like a gay following, but okay.
Well, I don't know. I don't even know what Grindr is, so there you go. All I'm saying is that there's hope for you boys. Get out there, start swinging the axes, and start a YouTube channel. If Grindr's going to help you with it, then go for it.
No. Should be right. Should be right.
Yeah.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thanks, guys.
And Vincenzo, pleasure always to have you. Thank you for everything that you do for us here on the Voice of Freedom and FBN behind the scenes. And you've picked up a little bit from last week. I'm pleased to see.
Oh yeah, it was a bit of an interesting week last week, but that's neither here nor there. Don't forget to promote Freedom Broadcasting Network, yourself, and everything else. We're always looking for members. Maybe we can run a competition soon with some bobs from Ainsley, but we might be able to purchase and give away or something. So
we might be able to do something like that. In fact, I owe David a call from Byron Bay. He rang me, I think it was yesterday, and I haven't got back to him yet. So we'll be going down to Byron Bay and having a bit of a chat with David, who is instrumental in setting up the Byron Bob program, and we'll be visiting a number of businesses in Byron Bay, and go and have a cup of coffee, or go to the pub, go to the butcher, go and see the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. We'll see what happens. And I'm sure there are candle makers in Byron Bay, so they'll be beautiful, rainbow coloured candles with unicorns hanging off them, but they'll be there. So
maybe a couple of the guys down that way can look at doing some advertising and sponsorship on Freedom Broadcasting Network, so we can try and get that off the ground. We really need to get that moving. So
yes, we do.
People need to understand it's not an opinion piece. This is a news / community / everything. So we're going to try and give both sides of the story. There'll be opinions in there, but there's a lot more to the Freedom Broadcasting Network. It's our competition against the big lot. So Please
one of the
step
things
up,
I've been
people.
working
Please
on-
help us.
One of the things I've been working on this week is figuring out how to present a yoga program. So there is a big yoga competition happening this weekend, a national competition. So I'm going on to have a bit of a look at how they currently do things with a view to maybe being able to present things a little more professionally for their competitions. But I'm looking for talent that we might potentially be able to use in this program that we'll film here on the Gold Coast. So if you're into yoga, love to hear from you. We have a master who's already ready to run the show, so to speak. So that's one of the things I've been working on. And for a man who knows absolutely nothing about yoga, it is quite a challenge. Can I just tell you?
Mate, they might wear you out. They might, try doing this, Carl, and there's Carl. We don't see Carl for a week because he's done his back in trying to do yoga. So
you'd like how it'd be, I can tell you. Yes, we would love your membership, folks. If you'd like to come and join us at Voice of Freedom, you can do so at vofhq.com. There is a big donate button there too. If you want to hit that and throw us a few bucks, it's always useful. And there are costs ongoing with the vehicle, and we're not quite back up on all 4, 6 wheels yet, but we are nearly.
I'll ring you about that later.
Oh no, it's a pressure tester. I've got to find we haven't quite fixed the coolant issues. I thought we had. But it now seems like I might need a radiator pressure testing unit. And of course, to do that, I've either got to bus somewhere, which is difficult if you're not sure how much water's in the radiator, and or you've got to go and get your own pressure tester and try and figure out what's going on. So they're a couple of $100 or more. So pain in the ass. You've got to buy a kit that comes with all the different caps for various different makes and models of cars. Radiator caps, that is, and this particular vehicle doesn't have radiator cap, so we have a very large bottle with a very large hole at the top, so you've got to find the right cap for that so you can pressurize the system, find out if and where there is a leak, and if that leak is in another hose that we just haven't been able to see, because God, there are so many places you can't see where these hoses go. Isn't that right, Vince?
Yeah, that's right.
Then hopefully, if we can put some cold water and bring it out under pressure, it won't atomize with the heat that would normally be generated off the motor, and we might get an idea of where it is. Or it could be a nasty issue that will require some chemical fixing on the inside of the motor. But we'll cross that bridge if and when we have to come to it. But so very keen to hit the road, very keen to get up north. Some people down in Cooktown, which I'm dreadfully sorry to have done. The plan was to go up to Cooktown last week and be in Cooktown tonight for the Tucker Carlson show tonight. For various different reasons, that didn't come off. Some personal reasons for me. There's been some things going on in my life in the last couple of weeks that none of you know about, and it has been distracting me in a significant way.
Mr. Bill says you need to downsize to a Toyota camper.
Yeah, well, that's all great to live in, but it's no good to run as a studio. And I think, Vince, you've seen now what this thing's capable of being as a studio.
Exactly.
And that's the whole reason we have it. Not for any other reason. If it was just something to live in, a coaster would be fine. But it isn't. It needs to be a lot more for what we have, or for what we want to be able to provide.
Yeah.
So there might be an argument that the cart has been put slightly forward of the horse in this juncture, but I'm endeavouring to rectify that. But I can only do that with your support, folks. And if you've got a business and you're happy to
sponsor us,
yeah, if you'd like to
if you,
sponsor,
I'll take over here, Carl. That's all right. If you've got a business and you're happy to sponsor us, we're looking for sponsorship that can go out there. We'll advertise that business through Voice of Freedom, through FBN, right, on the various websites that we'll be producing as well. Even if it's, there's lots of farm to plate type businesses out there,
Yep.
Camping businesses, etc. We've got an audience that's looking to find an alternative way. Use us, sponsor us, get us out there, get your name out there, because there's a huge audience out there that can and will use your services. Just ask Ainsley Bullion or Freedom Financial Solutions, both of which are sponsors that have helped us over time. So please, if you know somebody who runs a business, point them in our direction.
Yep. How would you like to, program an hour's worth of radio? Give us your favorite 15 songs and we'll put a little show together and we'll give you a call and you can tell us a few stories in the middle of it. All that sort of stuff we can do. And it's not hugely expensive. It's not even remotely expensive. We know times are tough. It's tough for everybody all round. We figure if we can get a lot of you coming on board, we don't need to charge very much at all.
Yeah, correct.
The more people, the cheaper it will be, quite literally. While Vince and I are both shareholders in this company, our goal here isn't to walk away from this company. And Vince, you'll back me up in that.
100%. We're not here to get rich. And in fact, we've definitely gone the opposite direction doing this for people. And we don't care because it's about us getting it out and helping the people move forward. Right? If we can make enough to employ a few people, give some people some extra jobs, and that's great. That means that we're helping Australia and we're helping our people. That's the goal. That's the concept here. Yeah.
So if that's a concept that you can get behind and support, folks, it doesn't matter if you don't have a business, if you're retired, or if you're just a worker in somebody else's business. Maybe you can go to your boss and say, hey, listen, there's an opportunity here. And I'll make this offer to you too. If you already are running a business that does radio or TV advertising and you want to change your voice, then you can have mine. I'll do that for you for a very, very reasonable rate that I wouldn't do for anybody else in the bloody industry if they were going to ask me. So this is something we would do only for Voice of Freedom and Freedom Broadcasting Network supporters. So it's getting to, as Vince said, the pointy end. We need your help. I don't want to keep this.
Or you won't have us.
Yeah, it'll be gone. I'll be gone. To where I don't know. But
it'd be very interesting to see you trying to do a Voice of Freedom live out of your tent, because you won't even have a bus to be living in.
No.
I'm stating it is, people. If you want to know, that's where it stands. So support us so we can support you. Well, support him. I'm all right. I'll go home, but
we're very keen. We're just keen to keep the fight going, folks.
Yeah, 100%.
Got to keep the fight going. And if it's not me, then somebody else is going to have to step up, because it is a fight that has to be kept going regardless. It has to be kept going. We have to start winning more hearts, minds, and souls. And thankfully, it's starting to appear like more of that is happening in mainstream media. There's more awake moments today in mainstream media. Whether or not people are awake enough to yet or it's starting to open their eyes, I don't know. We shall
he's dropped
stand
out
up
for a half a second there.
Oh, well, we'll stand up. We'll keep batting and we'll keep trying to hit it out of the park, because it's what we do. And over the weekend, mate, I hope you have a good one with your family. Everybody's back under the roof again.
Got to set up a website for my ex-wife who's just going into business, so maybe she will advertise with us.
Oh, great.
She's doing.
There goes all the ex-wife jokes I was about to do.
Right, and I've got a website that I'm setting up for the politician you were chatting to the other night, Kim Hanton. So
Yeah.
let's just him out with that. So
All right.
once again,
Well-
all for free because I'm an idiot. But okay.
You're just a solid
Glutton
gold
for
member of the
punishment.
club. Yeah, well, that
just
too.
glutton for punishment.
That
Yeah.
too. All right, mate. Love you very much. Have a great weekend. Talk soon.
All right. No worries. Cheers, guys.
Vince Panel, one of the best ever be likely to meet on God's green earth. An absolute gentleman and a scholar. All right, folks, you have yourselves a great weekend. This is one of the longest shows we've had in a while, a bit over 2 hours. I hope you've enjoyed it. The chat with Pastor Will, I really enjoyed, and the whole thought of going to Antarctica and being part of this final experiment is very exciting to me. But I'm so glad that Len has secured himself a position, and that I happen to know Len, and will be able to maintain a very close contact through that period. I'm really looking forward to being able to bring you the stories that we can from his trip to Antarctica later this year. If you're heading out over the weekend, folks, please be safe. The weather is still pretty cold in most places. I don't know how wet it is. There's been a few talks I've seen in the chat of sprays over South Australia way, West Australia way, Tasmania way. That might mean that Queensland's a little bit safe. I haven't seen anything being sprayed around here today. But then again, I haven't been outside too much. I've been not on the roads at all, trying to dodge those dickheads. You know how it is, don't you?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!